చూసి Good morning, my dear students. Today I am starting my class a little earlier because lunchtime. I want to close the class early. Okay. Today we are going to know about brachial plexus and major nerves of the upper limb. Major nerves of the upper limb. Brachial plexus and major nerves of the upper limb. So what are the major nerves of the upper limb? Radial nerve, medial nerve, ulnar nerve, axillary nerve, and musculocutaneous nerve. So these five are the major nerves of the upper limb. So brachial plexus and major nerves of the upper limb. Radial nerve, medial nerve, ulnar nerve, musculocutaneous nerve, and axillary nerve. Musculocutaneous nerve and axillary nerve. Already I told you brachial plexus is formed by the anterior ventral rami of C5 to C8 and most of the anterior ramus of T1. So C5 to C8, 4 and T1. If C4 is involved, that is prefix. If T2 is involved, that is postfix. If C4 is involved, T1 is small and T2 never. If T1 is involved, C5 is small and C4 is never. It is not present. So that is the methodology of abnormal formation of the brachial plexus. So normally C5 to C8 and T1. Now, it originates from neck, passes laterally and inferiorly over the first rib and enters the axilla. It originates from the neck, passes laterally and inferiorly over the first rib and enters the axilla. The part of brachial plexus from medial to laterally are roots, trunks, divisions and cords. Roots, trunks, divisions and cords. Roots, trunks, divisions and cords. So brachial plexus from medial to lateral, roots, then trunks, then divisions, then cords. Proximal part is posterior to subclavian artery. Distal part of the brachial plexus surrounds axillary artery because axillary artery is nothing but continuous to the subclavian artery. So proximal part is, so here I am telling you the relations of brachial plexus with subclavian artery and axillary artery. So proximal part of the brachial plexus is posterior to subclavian artery and distal part surrounds the axillary artery. Now this is the brachial plexus C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. Now this is the roots. Now this is the C5 and C6 unites to form the upper trunk. C7 itself forms the middle trunk. C8 and T1 forms the lower trunk. So the name is also given on the trunk itself. Upper trunk, middle trunk and lower trunk. Again the trunks are divided into anterior division and anterior division and posterior division. So this is the anterior division, this is the anterior division and it itself continues as this one. So this anterior division of the lower trunk continues downwards as the medial cord. So anterior division of the middle trunk and upper trunk unites to form the lateral cord and posterior division of the upper trunk, posterior division of the middle trunk and posterior division of the lower trunk continues, unites to form the posterior cord. So I have clarified you how the formation of the brachial plexus occurs. Now again, nerves coming from the roots. Dorsal scapular nerve coming from the root. This is the dorsal scapular nerve coming from the C5 and long thoracic nerve or narratus serratus anterior coming from the root C5, C6 contribution, C7 contribution and C8 contribution and T1 contribution that we are not able to see. So this nerve receives communication from all roots of the brachial plexus, that is long thoracic nerve. Now this is the upper trunk. Suprascapular nerve arises from the upper trunk and level to subclavius arises from the upper trunk. So this one nerve and this nerve are arises from the roots of the brachial plexus. These two are root branches arising from the roots of the brachial plexus. This one and this one are the branches arising from the trunks itself, upper trunk. Now this this divides into anterior divisions and posterior divisions. All posterior divisions of the upper trunk, middle trunk, and lower trunk unite to form the posterior cord, and anterior division of the upper trunk and middle trunk unite to form the lateral cord. Now, from the lateral cord, lateral pectoral nerve arises. Now, this musculocutaneous nerve arises, and a branch coming from the lateral cord, that is the lateral branch, and a branch coming from the medial cord, that is the medial part, unites to form the medial nerve. So, this is a contribution from the lateral cord. This is a contribution from the medial cord, forms the median nerve. So, this is a median nerve is formed by root arising from the lateral cord and a medial root arising from the medial cord unites to form the median nerve. So, the lateral cord continues as musculocutaneous nerve. Now, the posterior cord gives origin to upper subscapular nerve, thoracodorsal nerve, and lower subscapular nerve. And again, it divides into axillary nerve, a bifurcation, and radial nerve is nothing but continuous to the posterior cord. So, radial nerve and axillary nerve. Axillary nerve is a diversion. So, how it is in a curve-shaped manner is a diversion, and radial nerve is a continuous to the posterior cord itself. Now, from the medial cord, ulnar nerve is continuous. Ulnar nerve is continuous, and again, medial cutaneous nerve of the forearm and medial cutaneous nerve of the arm arises from the medial cord. So, medial cutaneous nerve of the arm, number one, medial cutaneous nerve of the forearm, number two, and ulnar nerve is nothing but continuous to the medial cord. So, these are all the nerves, arising from the cords of the brachial plexus. So, nerves arising from the roots, nerves arising from the trunks, nerves arising from the cords. So, branches arising from the brachial plexus, nerves arising from the roots, nerves arising from the trunks, and nerves arising from the cords. You have to write in that. Or otherwise, depending upon the clavicle, supraclavicular part and intraclavicular part, and what part of the brachial plexus is present behind the clavicle, that is retroclavicular part. So, this is a colorful diagram of brachial plexus. This is a colorful diagram of brachial plexus. This is a simple yellow color diagram, and this is a colorful diagram. Now, this is the reason how the brachial plexus is present. You see, this is the clavicle. So, this part of the brachial plexus is retroclavicular. This part of the brachial plexus is supraclavicular. This part of the brachial plexus is below the supraclavicular. So, the intraclavicular part. Now, this is the subclavian artery. This is the subclavian artery. Now, from here, subclavian artery is becoming the axillary artery. Now, this is the brachial plexus, supraclavicular part. So, the brachial plexus itself arises from the neck. This is scalenus anterior muscle. This is scalenus medius muscle. This is scalenus medius. You see, this is scalenus medius. This is scalenus anterior. So, roots of the brachial plexus arises behind the scalenus anterior and also above the scalenus medius are cleft between the scalenus anterior and scalenus medius and goes downwards. So, the scalenus anterior here, this is the scalenus anterior. Now, this is the scalenus medius. So, it rests over the scalenus medius and goes behind the clavicle and enters into the axilla. You see this diagram, how the brachial plexus arising from the roots of the neck enters into the axilla. So, this is the supraclavicular part, this is the retroclavicular part, this is the intraclavicular part. By seeing this dissected specimen, this is a line diagram with the muscles and relations of the brachial plexus. You will get a clear-cut idea when you are doing dissection in the dissection hall. If you see this diagram, you go to the dissection cadaver, you can have a clear-cut idea of brachial plexus, where it is present. You can tally where it is present in your hand, where it is present in your body. So this is the method why I had given this diagram. Roots originate from C5 and C8 and most of T1. This is gray rami communicates from the sympathetic trunk, carry postganglionic sympathetic fibers on to root for distribution of periphery. Roots and trunk enter posterior triangle of the neck by passing between the scalenus anterior and middle scaly muscle and lies between the superior and posterior to the subclavian artery. Already I have shown you the muscle scalenus anterior and scalenus medius, how the brachial plexus is present. Trunks. Roots pass downwards between the scalenus medius and scalenus anterior muscle and unite to form the superior trunk. C7 passes between the scalenus muscles at the lateral bottom of the scalenus anterior emerges as middle trunk. C8 and T1 roots unite behind a facial sheet that is called substance fascia and beneath the subclavian artery form the lower trunk. Now divisions. Roots, trunks, now divisions. Lateral to the first rib, where three trunks are located behind the axillary artery. Lateral to the first rib because the subclavian artery ends at the outer border of the first rib. Axillary artery is nothing but continuous to the subclavian artery at the outer border of the first rib. So subclavian artery ends at the outer border of the first rib. From there, axillary artery. So three trunks are located behind the axillary artery. They separate into three anterior and posterior divisions. Now, the three anterior divisions form part of the brachial plexus that ultimately give rise to peripheral nerve associated with the anterior compartment of arm or forearm. Three posterior divisions combine to form the posterior part of brachial plexus that give rise to nerves associated with posterior compartment. Already, I have shown you the brachial plexus divisions. So, all anterior divisions of the brachial plexus are associated with the anterior surface of the hand, arm, forearm, and hand. Whereas posterior divisions of the brachial plexus are associated with posterior aspect of the hand, upper limb, posterior aspect of the upper limb. I will show you. So, this one, and this one are anterior. So, anterior divisions. These are all associated with yellow color, are associated with anterior, supplying the anterior aspect of the hand. Whereas the green color, they are formed by the union of posterior division. They are associated with nerve supply to the posterior aspect of the upper limb. So all the anterior compartment is called flexor compartment of the hand, flexor compartment of the upper limb. So all the posterior compartment is called extensor compartment of the upper limb. So extensor compartment of the upper limb is supplied by the posterior part of the brachial plexus. Flexor compartment of the upper limb is supplied by the anterior compartment of the brachial plexus. I am going a little depth division of anatomy rather than simply telling the nerves and others. So I am going more detailed and elaborated sense I am telling you. Now cords. The three posterior divisions unite to form the posterior cord. Anterior division of upper and middle trunks unite to form the lateral cord. Anterior division of lower trunk itself forms the medial cord. Cords pass through the thoracic outlet and gives off major branches. Because from the cords only axillary nerve and radial nerve comes on the posterior divisions. So median nerve, ulnar nerve, musculocutaneous nerves come from the anterior cords. Anterior divisions of the cord, brachial plexus. You see once again how I have given this analysis. This is posterior division. This is the anterior division of the brachial plexus. Branches of roots. Branches of from cord. So medial cord. From medial cord, what nerves arises? I have given you. From posterior cord, what nerves arises? I have given you. Now I am going to lesions of brachial plexus because I have to tell you 5 nerves. So after brachial plexus, I have to tell you 5 nerves. So that's why I am simply nutshelling because within a 45 minutes of lecture, a teacher can complete it, but I have to, it's only a brush up. So lesions of brachial plexus usually incomplete. Muscle paralysis because muscles are supplied by the nerves coming from the brachial plexus. So once the nerve supply is lost, the muscle becomes atrophy, and tendon reflexes are lost, and sensory changes occur. Clinical deficit involving one spinal or peripheral nerves can occur. All these changes occur in lesions of brachial plexus. This is an elaborated sense. In detail, I will tell you. This is an elaborated features of brachial plexus palsy. It may be a upper part of the brachial plexus palsy and lower part of the brachial plexus palsy, lower cord. So that is different. So upper part, Erb's palsy, lower part, claw hand. So Erb's palsy and Klumpke's paralysis in upper cord, and whereas in lower cord paralysis, claw hand occurs. So these are all the deformities. So whereas in radial nerve palsy, wrist drops occur. So in musculocutaneous nerve palsy, because the biceps brachii anterior compartment of the arm is supplied by the musculocutaneous nerve. It is a motor nerve that is supplying the muscles in the anterior compartment of the arm. So functions of the flexion of the elbow is lost. So these are all the signs and symptoms produced by corresponding nerves. I am telling you in general. Now total plexus palsy. Whenever a usual severe trauma occurs, entire arm is paralyzed. All arm musculature may undergo rapid atrophy because the entire brachial plexus is damaged. Complete anesthesia of arm distal to a line extending obliquely from tip of shoulder to medial arm, halfway to elbow, to the mid of the arm, halfway to the elbow. In severe road traffic injuries, complete paralysis of the brachial plexus occurs, or any severe trauma, complete loss of brachial plexus damage occurs. In such condition, the entire arm is paralyzed. It occurs due to severe trauma. Arm's musculature may undergo rapid atrophy. Complete anesthesia of arm distal to a line extending obliquely from tip of shoulder to the mid of the arm. Entire upper limb is air reflex. So once the brachial plexus is completely paralyzed, the entire there is no response in the upper limb. It is nothing but a stick hanging by the side of your body, a dead part of the body, because no sensation is there. So complete brachial plexus palsy occurs in severe trauma. Upper plexus paralysis. Urban-Duncan palsy results from damage of C5, C6 roots or upper trunk. Causes forceful separation of head and shoulder, pressure on shoulder, firearm recoil, birth injury, and idiopathic plexitis. All these are all causes. Forceful separation of head. Whenever a baby is delivering, head comes out. So an untrained dai or a doctor who has no sufficient knowledge will pull that head. So you have to allow the head to come voluntarily. But for a curiosity or to make the labor complete, within short time, he will pull it with the head. In such conditions, upper limb palsy will occur. Upper plexus paralysis will occur. Limb is internally rotated, adducted, forearm is extended and pronated, palm facing out and backwards. Policeman stick position or weighted stick position will occur. So, policeman stick hand or weighted stick hand will occur. Paralysis of deltoid. Deltoid is associated with extension. So, paralysis of deltoid is associated with extension of the shoulder joint. So, paralysis is paralyzed. So, adduction, medial rotation, and pronation, and extension of elbow, and policeman tips hand or weighted stick hand will occur. So, in upper plexus palsy, so policeman tip hand or a weighted stick hand will occur. Shoulder abduction, deltoid supraspinatus. These two muscles are responsible for abduction, lateral movement. Elbow flexion, biceps brachioradialis, brachialis. External rotation of arm, infraspinatus, forearm, supination, biceps are impaired because all these muscles are supplied by the brachial plexus, upper plexus, C5, C6. So this is damaged. So here I am telling you, shoulder abduction is caused by deltoid and supraspinatus. So shoulder abduction is lost. So elbow flexion, biceps brachioradialis and brachialis. So if the upper plexus palsy occurs, so biceps brachioradialis and brachialis muscles will be paralyzed. External rotation of arm, because infraspinatus is responsible for medial rotation. So internal rotation is lost and external rotation occurs. Forearm supination, biceps are impaired. So this is what muscle action action on shoulder joint and others. So the muscle and its action. So if the upper plexus is paralyzed, that action is lost. That is the explanation given in the document. Very proximal lesion can cause weakness of rhomboids, levator scapula, serratus anterior, and scalenus muscle. So I have given you what muscles will be affected if upper plexus palsy, C5 and C6 will occur. Sensitivity is usually intact. Some sensory loss may occur over the outer surface of the upper arm. Biceps, brachioradialis reflex are depressed or absent. So all these muscles are affected in upper plexus palsy because C5 and C6 gives musculocutaneous nerve and a medial and a lateral root of medial nerve comes from the C5 and C6. I will show you. This one, upper plexus C5, C6. So, lateral cord, musculocutaneous nerve and medial root. So, lateral anterior thoracic. So, all these are injured. So, now this is navitor subclavius. This is navitor subclavius, suprascapular nerve. Now, this is the division of upper trunk into anterior division and posterior division. This is the ventral root, C5. This is the ventral ramus of C6. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, 6, or 1. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, and this is 6. This junction injury is called Erb's paralysis. This point is called Erb's point. This junction of 6 nerves is called Erb's point. If injury in this region causes paralysis, that is called Erb's paralysis. That is called Erb's paralysis. Once again, I am telling you the Erb's point. C5, C6 roots. This is navitor subclavius. This is suprascapular nerve. This is anterior division and posterior division of the. This is the upper trunk. Divides into anterior division and posterior division. So this junction is called Erb's point, and paralysis of this region is called injury in this region causes Erb's paralysis. That is called Erb's paralysis. And injury in the Erb's point causes paralysis. That is called Erb's paralysis. So lesions of posterior cord will cause all these signs and symptoms. Axillary nerve injury manifests deltoid, arm abduction, and teres minor, lateral rotation of shoulder, paresis and sensory loss because axillary nerve supplies the deltoid and teres minor. Radial nerve injury results in cases of elbow extension, wrist extension, forearm supination and finger. Extension, sensory loss over entire external surface arm and forearm, and back of the hand and dorsum of the first 4 fingers. So, which part of brachial plexus is affected? So, the area supplied by that part of the brachial plexus, the muscle supplied by that part of the brachial plexus which is injured, will lose their function. So, paresis, the loss of function occurs, and domination of the opposite function will occur. Because normal tone is lost, the muscle becomes flaccid, and there is no contraction to the opposite action. So, the limb is extended in that side. So, overaction of that side because the opposition of flexion and extension are contracted. So, once the extension is lost, extensor nerve supply is lost, flexor action is dominated. If the flexor nerve supply is lost, extensor action is counter-affected, is increased. So, the result will come in vice versa. Lesions of lateral cord, surgical or local trauma, muscular. So, you can all go through this one. Erb's paralysis, already I told you, birth injury, arm hangs by the side and rotate medially, forearm pronated plus extended, flexor wrist and fingers, already I told you, deltoid, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, biceps brachii, all muscles are paralyzed. Because already I told you what is Erb's point, what is Erb's paralysis. Once again in your clinical anatomy, I teach you. Now Klumpke's paralysis, C8 and T1. intrinsic muscles of the hand and long plexors of the hand, paralysis, Laha and extension of at metatarsophalangeal joint and flexion at interphalangeal joint. Cervical rib can cause paralysis similar to Klumpke's paralysis with post-fixed T2 contribution. So, Klumpke's paralysis. So, lower limb, lower part of the brachial plexus, C8 and T1. Upper part, C5, C6. Winging of scapula, injury to long thoracic nerve, paralysis of serratus anterior. Because serratus anterior is otherwise called as a boxing muscle. So, this muscle is supplied by long thoracic nerve, which has got root values of C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. I will show you the long thoracic nerve. This is the long thoracic nerve. Contribution from C5, contribution from C6, contribution from C7, contribution from C8. So it goes behind like this and all gets contribution from T1. This supplies the serratus anterior muscle, boxing muscle. So winging of the scapula occurs. Now we are going into radial line because already I told you brachial plexus. Now we are going into radial line. Radial nerve is the largest nerve of the upper limb and also largest branch of the brachial plexus. It is thicker than any branch in the radial brachial plexus. It arises from all posterior divisions of the brachial plexus, C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. So its roots value is C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. It supplies the extensor aspect of the upper limb. It supplies the extensor aspect of the upper limb. If this radial nerve is damaged, it can be damaged in the axilla. It can be damaged more usually in the just distal to the spiral groove or the groove in which the radial nerve is present at the midshaft level. Or the radial nerve can be injured at the elbow level. So the radial nerve can be injured at the elbow level. So the radial nerve injury can occur at the axilla. The radial nerve injury can occur at the just distal to the midshaft level, that is the spiral groove. Or the radial nerve injury can be occur at the elbow joint. And extensor and the function is lost. Extensor compartment muscles are all supplied by the radial nerve. If the radial nerve is damaged, the extensor muscular now supplied to the extensor muscles or extensor compartment of the hand, arm is affected. So extension is lost and flexion is dominated. That's why the wrist drop occurs because extensors of the wrist are supplied, of the fingers are supplied by the radial nerve, its function is lost. And it is dominated, flexor action is dominated, and wrist drop will occur. It is a continuation of posterior cord of brachial plexus in the axilla. Already I told you. You have to go well through the diagram, then only you can have it. So you see, radial nerve is continuous to the posterior cord of brachial plexus. Axillary nerve is a bifurcation from the posterior cord, how it goes. So it is nothing but what is the, you have to assess an artery or a vein, artery or a nerve as a continuation means that is in line with the main part. So here the radial nerve is in line with the posterior cord, so it is called as continuation. That is nothing but continuation. It receives fibers from C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. But T1 fibers are not constant. In the axilla, radial nerve lies posterior to the third part of axillary artery, anterior to the muscles forming the posterior wall of the axilla. In the axilla, radial nerve gives three branches. Posterior cutaneous nerve of the arm provides sensory nerve supply. Sensory innervation to the skin on the back of the arm up to the elbow. Now to long head of triceps, now to medial head of triceps, Radial nerve enters the arm at the lower bone of the teres major. It passes between the long and medial heads of triceps to enter the lower triangular space. From lower triangular space, it reaches the spiral groove along with profunda brachii artery. Radial nerve in spiral groove lies in direct contact with the humerus. So, fracture of the humerus at the midshaft level is associated with injury of the radial nerve because it is present in the spiral groove. It lies in direct contact with the humerus. Boundaries of spiral groove already anteriorly middle one of the shaft of humerus. We have to go above origin of. I have given the boundaries. Radial nerve in spiral groove gives following branches. Lateral cutaneous of the arm. It provides sensory innervation to the skin on the lateral surface of the arm up to the elbow. Posterior cutaneous nerve of the forearm provides sensory. So lateral cutaneous nerve of the arm, posterior cutaneous nerve of the forearm are branches coming from the radial nerve in the spiral groove. Now to lateral head of triceps, now to medial head of triceps, now to anconeus. It goes through the substance of the medial head of the triceps and also it supplies the medial head of triceps. At the lower end of the spinal groove, radial nerve pierces the lateral intramuscular septum of the arm and enters anterior compartment of the arm. So, posterior compartment of the nerve comes into the anterior compartment. Whereas ulnar nerve present in the anterior compartment is the anterior nerve pierces the intramuscular septum at the level of insertion of coracobrachialis and enters into the posterior compartment of the arm. So, radial nerve is a posterior nerve, enters into the anterior compartment of the arm. Ulnar nerve is an anterior nerve, pierces the intramuscular septum at the insertion of the coracobrachialis in the arm and enters into the posterior compartment of the arm. So, here it descends first base. So, enters the intramuscular septum of the arm and enters the anterior compartment of the arm. Here it descends first between the brachialis and the brachioradialis and then between brachialis and extensor carpioradialis longus before entering the cubital fossa. In the anterior compartment of the arm, above lateral epicondyle, it gives following three branches. Now to brachialis, now to brachioradialis, now to extensor carpioradialis longus. At the level of lateral epicondyle of humerus, it terminates by dividing into superficial and deep branches in the lateral part of cubital fossa. So the radial nerve terminates at the level of lateral epicondyle into superficial and deep branches in the cubital fossa. Deep. So you have to see where the radial nerve at the level of lateral epicondyle of humerus, it terminates by dividing into superficial and deep branches in the lateral part of cubital fossa. So the radial nerve ends in the cubital fossa at the lateral part of at the level of lateral epicondyle of the humerus into superficial and deep branches. Now deep branch is called as posterior introsseous nerve, whereas anterior introsseous nerve is a branch coming from the median nerve. So in the cubital fossa, it supplies two muscles, extensor carpioradialis brevis supinator. Are supplying these two muscles, it passes through the deep branch, passes through the substance of the supinator and enters the posterior compartment of the forearm and arm and supplies all the extensor muscles of the forearm. So all the extensor muscles of the forearm are supplied by the deep branch of the radial nerve, posterior introsseous nerve. So all muscles of the posterior compartment of the forearm are supplied by the deep branch of the radial nerve. Deep branch of the radial nerve, which is otherwise called as posterior interosseous nerve. The radial nerve starts in the brachial plexus from the posterior cord, enters the cubital fossa and ends at the level of the lateral epicondyle into deep and superficial. Deep branch of the radial nerve is called as posterior interosseous nerve. So it supplies all muscles on the posterior compartment of the forearm. Muscles present in the posterior compartment of the forearm. It also gives articular branches to the distal radioulnar wrist and carpal joint. Superficial branch is also called superficial radial nerve is sensory. So here there is a division of radial nerve in the cubital fossa into superficial and deep branch. Deep branch of the radial nerve is called as posterior introsseous nerve. Posterior introsseous nerve. Whereas superficial branch is purely sensory and deep branch of the radial nerve is motor. Deep branch of the radial nerve is motor and superficial branch is sensory. It supplies cutaneous nerve supply. About 7 centimeters above the wrist, it passes. So I am telling you about the superficial branch of the radial nerve. It passes posteriorly, emerging from under the tendon of the brachioradial, proximal to the styloid process of radius. Passes over the tendons of anatomical snub bones, then it terminates its cutaneous branches, which provide sensory innervation to the skin over the lateral part of dorsum of hand and dorsal surface of lateral 3 and of digits proximal to the nail bed. Motor and sensory innervation of radial nerve. So all the muscles have got motor innervation. Cutaneous innervation is sensory. So that is, I have given what muscles are supplied by the radial nerve, that is motor innervation. So skin supply is sensory supply. This is the diagram given in your textbook, radial nerve. Now radial nerve can be injured, already I told you. Saturday night paralysis, wrist drop, everything. Sensory loss. The diagram. Radial or spiral root, already I told you. Saturday night paralysis, already I explained you. Now median nerve arises from the brachial plexus in axilla by two routes. Lateral root from lateral chorda brachial plexus. Medial root arises from the medial chorda brachial plexus. Root value of median nerve is C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. In axilla, medial nerve lies on the lateral side of the third part of axillary artery. It enters the arm at the lower bound of the teres major. In the arm, median nerve lies lateral to the brachial artery in each end. Crosses in front of the artery from lateral to medial side at the level of insertion of corpus brachialis. So, after crossing the trunks downwards to enter the cubital fossa, in the cubital fossa, median nerve lies medial to the brachial artery and tendon of biceps brachii. Here it is covered by bicep aponeurosis, who's separated from the median cubital vein. So, which one of the following nerve is not a component of the cubital fossa? Ulnar nerve is not a component of the cubital fossa. Radial nerve and median nerve are components of the cubital fossa. That you must know it. The PG medical entrance meet. So, whatever I am giving in the PowerPoint, you have to read it. You have to compare it. Median nerve leaves the cubital fossa by passing between the two heads of frontal teres. At this point, it gives up anterior interosseous nerve. Already I told you posterior interosseous nerve is nothing but deep branch of the radial nerve. So anterior interosseous nerve is a branch of the median nerve. It supplies the muscles of the front of the forearm. Whereas posterior interosseous nerve, a deep branch of the radial nerve, supplies the muscles on the posterior aspect of the forearm. Anterior interosseous nerve is purely motor and supplies 2.5 muscles. Whereas posterior interosseous nerve, a deep branch of the radial nerve, is purely motor. Anterior interosseous nerve, a branch of the median nerve, is purely motor. It supplies all these muscles. Emerges from the lateral side of flexor distorum superficialis and becomes superficial, lying lateral to the tendons of flexor distorum superficialis and posterior to the tendon of palmaris longus. In the mid forearm, the median nerve gives muscular branches to the radial head of flexor distorum superficialis. There is a rule. Whatever artery or whatever nerve is going through the muscle, it supplies the muscle. It supplies the nearby regions. In the palm, median nerve flattens at the distal bone of the flexor retinaculum and divides into lateral and medial division. Lateral division gives a recurrent drive. It curls upwards to supply the thenar muscles except the deep head of flexor pulsus brachialis. 3.5 fingers is supplied by the median nerve. Lateral 1.5 fingers is supplied by the ulnar nerve. It is a usual rule. First and second lumbricals are supplied by the median nerve. Third and fourth lumbricals are 1.5 part of the. So third lumbrical is supplied by both median and ulnar nerve, and 1.5. So first, fourth and third lumbrical muscles are supplied by the ulnar nerve, and all the intrinsic muscles of the hand are supplied by the ulnar nerve. Median nerve is otherwise called as labrus nerve. Ulnar nerve is responsible for the finest movements of the hand. It is otherwise called as musician's nerve. Median nerve is called eye of the hand or peripheral eye because it provides sensory innervation to the pulp of the thumb and index finger. Peripheral eye or eye of the hand is called median nerve. Peripheral heart or calf pump. A muscle in lower limb. You recollect your memory. I already told you varicose veins. When I am teaching you varicose veins, I told you the peripheral heart or peripheral pump. Calf pump. Now median nerve C5 T1. Motor innervation. Clinical anatomy. Lesions on median nerve can occur at 4 sites. at the elbow, at the mid forearm, at the wrist, in the carpal tunnel syndrome. I already told you the carpal tunnel syndrome. Entrapment of nerve between two heads of trunca teres or under fibrous arch connecting two heads of flexor distal superficialis. That is entrapment neuropathy. So all these are signs and symptoms caused by entrapment of nerve. Bendix deformity hand. When patient tries to make fist index and middle fingers remain straight due to paralysis of both superficial and deep flexors of these fingers. Loss of flexion at proximal interphalangeal joint and distal interphalangeal joint. Ring and little fingers can be kept in flexor position due to intact nerve supply of medial of the flexor distorum profundus. That is by the ulnar nerve. Loss of flexion of terminal phalanx of thumb due to paralysis of the flexor pollicis longus. Medial nerve supply. Ape thumb deformity, theora radialis is flattened. Thumb is laterally rotated and adducted due to paralysis of the muscles and theora radialis and normal adductor pollicis respectively. Loss of sensation in lateral half of the palm and lateral 3.5 digits, and also on the dorsal aspect of the same digits. Median nerve attack, lateral 3.5. So these are all injuries. Injury, carpal tunnel syndrome. Clinical features of carpal tunnel. I already told you carpal tunnel syndrome. This is a diagram present in your textbook. Phalanx test. If you flexion of both wrists against each other for 1 minute, reproduce patient symptoms. Ulnar nerve arises from the medial cord of brachial plexus in the axilla. Root value is T8 and C8 and T1. It receives contribution from ventral rams of C7. It only supplies flexor carpi ulnaris, C7 fiber. In the axilla, ulnar nerve lies medial to the third part of axillary artery, between axillary artery and knee. In the arms, runs distally along the medial side of the brachial artery up to the mid-arm level, at level of incision of coracobrachialis. Then it pierces the medial intermuscular septum, enters the posterior compartment of our arm. Already I told you when I am telling you the radial nerve. Then runs backwards on the medial epicondyle of the humerus. It is lodged in a groove where it can be easily palpated. This is the method of palpation of ulnar nerve in the elbow. If you find a tingling sensation, that is ulnar tingling. That means your nerve is thickened, ulnar nerve is thickened. Usually a tingling sensation does not occur. Ulnar nerve does not give any branch in arm and axilla. Nerve enters the forearm between two heads of flexor carpi ulnaris and also supplies the flexor carpi ulnaris. In the upper third of the forearm, it runs on the cover of the flexor carpi ulnaris. In the lower two thirds of forearm, it becomes superficial and lies lateral to the flexor carpi ulnaris. Ulnar nerve and artery descend together, artery being on the lateral side of the nerve. Nerve is medial to the ulnar artery. In the forearm, ulnar nerve gives following branches. In the proximal forearm, it gives muscular branches to the flexor carpi ulnaris. Medial half of flexor distorum profundus. In the mid forearm, it gives palmar cutaneous branch. It enters the palm superficial to flexor retinaculum. It provides sensory innervation to the skin over the hypothenar amidis. Branches, muscular to flexor carpi ulnaris and medial half of the flexor distorum profundus. Palmar cutaneous branch arises in the middle of the forearm and supplies the skin over the hypothenar amidis. Dorsal cutaneous branch arises from the 7.5 centimeters above the wrist. So it's nerve supply, cutaneous nerve supply. This is the ulnar nerve, relation with the deep palmar arch. ఇదిగో ఈ లిటిల్ ఫింగర్ కి ఇదిగో ఈ నర్వ్ ulnar nerve branches 1, 2, 3 and off. 1 finger, 2 finger. Yellow are nerves. You see yellow. This is yellow. This is yellow. These are nerves. So 3.5 is supplied by the median nerve, 1.5 by the ulnar nerve. This is a diagram given in your textbook. So this is clawing of ring and little fingers. Already I told you the claw hand, clinical anatomy. So you must know You have to recollect it. When I am telling you, it is a revision class, it is a fast revision class, and I have to cover majority of the subject in this one. So you have to recollect, you have to read it repeatedly. Now axillary nerve arises from the posterior corda brachial plexus C5, C6 near the lower border subscapularis. It runs on backwards and subscapularis. It passes through the quadrangular space along with posterior circumflex artery. It is intimately related to the medial aspect of surgical neck of humerus, inferior to capsule of shoulder joint. Which one of the following nerve is associated with surgical neck of humerus? Axillary nerve. So, injury of the humerus at the surgical neck of humerus is associated with axillary nerve injury. Injury of the radial nerve is associated with injury midshaft fractures of the humerus. So, surgical neck fractures of the humerus is associated with axillary nerve injury, and midshaft fractures of the humerus are associated with radial nerve injury. Then it runs laterally and divides into anterior and posterior divisions deep to deltoid. Posterior branch supplies teres minor and posterior part of deltoid. It continues over the posterior border of deltoid as upper lateral potential of the arm and supplies the skin over the lower half of the deltoid. Now to teres minor possesses pseudoganglia. Anterior branch continues horizontally between the deltoid and surgical neck of humerus with posterior circumflex humeral artery. Now axillary nerve is nothing but bifurcation of the posterior corda brachial plexus. It divides into anterior branch and posterior branch. It supplies the deltoid muscle and teres minor muscle. It supplies the deltoid muscle and teres minor muscle. Anterior division of the axillary nerve supplies the anterior part of the deltoid. Posterior division supplies the posterior part of the deltoid. Nerve to teres minor arises from the posterior branch of the deltoid. Today's nerve arises from both branches. It is a mixing nerve. It sends branches through the deltoid muscle that supplies the skin over the deltoid. This is the axillary nerve. This is the surgical neck of humerus. Now, this is anterior branch, this is posterior branch. How it is going with this? Posterior circumflex humeral artery. This is anterior circumflex humeral artery. So, anterior branch of the axillary nerve is associated with posterior circumflex humeral artery under cover of deltoid. So, this anterior division supplies the deltoid muscle. So, this anterior division by piercing the deltoid muscle gives cutaneous branches. So, these are all the cutaneous branches. So, this posterior division of the deltoid supplies the posterior part of the deltoid muscle, and also it gives a branch that is upper lateral cutaneous nerve of the arm. It does not penetrate, the upper lateral cutaneous nerve of the arm does not penetrate the deltoid muscle. Whereas the posterior branch gives a nerve supply to the teres minor. And the nerve supply to the teres minor, that's the posterior branch. A branch from the posterior branch of the axillary nerve. This is posterior. I have got a pseudoganglion. So axillary nerve damage is associated loss of function of deltoid and loss of function of teres minor. Deltoid is a powerful extensor of the shoulder joint. It is the principal extensor of the shoulder joint. It is a principal abductor movement is abductional movement is of the shoulder joint is produced by the deltoid. So abduction is lost, extension is lost. Damage in inferior dislocation of the head of the humerus and shoulder joint. In fractures of the surgical neck of humerus. Impaired abduction of the shoulder due to paralysis of the deltoid and teres minor muscle. Loss of sensation of the lower half of deltoid. Segmental bandage area of the sensory loss due to involvement of upper lateral cutaneous nerve of the arm. Loss of shoulder counter with prominence of greater tubercle of the humerus due to wasting of the deltoid muscle. Because deltoid muscle is supplied by the axillary nerve. Axillary nerve damage is associated with loss of function of the deltoid muscle and atrophy of the deltoid muscle. So the counter of the shoulder, upper arm, top part, the shape is lost if the deltoid becomes atrophied. Deltoid becomes atrophied if the axillary nerve is damaged. Because the axillary nerve supplies the deltoid muscle is paralyzed. The axillary nerve is damaged. Deltoid is the principal abductor of the shoulder joint. So abduction of the shoulder joint is lost. You have to analyze, you have to think, you have to read, you have to think while reading yourself, you have to understand yourself, you have to judge yourself while you are reading your lecture, while you are following the lecture, while you are reading the textbook. అంటే మీకు నేను ఒకటే చెప్తున్నాను, మీరు పుస్తకం చదువుతున్నప్పుడు మీలో మీరే టీచర్ కింద స్టూడెంట్ కింద రెండు రోల్స్ ప్లే చేయండి. ఐఎమ్ రిక్వెస్టింగ్ ఆల్ ఆఫ్ మై స్టూడెంట్స్, while you are reading the textbook, while you are seeing the dissection, you have to play a role as a student. You read it. At the same time, you have to act as a teacher for yourself, to teach yourself. Then only you will be a master subject. Once again, I am telling you, while you are hearing, while you are reading the textbook, while you are doing the practicals, you learn it as a student. At the same time, you become a teacher to yourself. Then only you will get the subject, my dear student. This is the axillary nerve. Now the musculocutaneous nerve is a branch of the lateral cord. It has got root values C5 and C6. It provides motor innervation to the muscles on the front of the arm, that is biceps brachii. Sensory innervation to the skin of the lateral part of the forearm. So musculocutaneous nerve is a motor nerve to the muscles on the front of the forearm. Biceps brachii is associated with flexion and supination of the elbow joint. So flexion of the elbow joint is lost and supination is partly damaged. So this is the musculocutaneous nerve supply. Intramuscular injection, deltoid muscle of arm, vastus latalis muscle of the thigh. So already I told you. Okay. So these are all the 5 nerves I have covered it. Brachial plexus, inertial, axillary nerve, radial nerve, median nerve, ulnar nerve, and musculocutaneous nerve. These are the 5 nerves I have completed. So brachial plexus and major nerves of the arm in a nutshell is completed. Thank you very much for your kind cooperation at this lunch hour. Thank you very much, my dear students. Wish you best of luck. Once again, I am telling you, you read as a student and you teach yourself as a teacher and verify the subject in your textbook. Definitely you will get success in the exams. Thank you very much.